Hello, and welcome to another edition of Your Therapist Needs Therapy, podcast where two mental health professionals talk about their mental health journeys. My name is Jeremy Schumacher, licensed marriage and family therapist. To support the show, head over to patreon.com/wellnesswithjer, or you can head over to my website, wellnesswithjer.com. Socials. I'm a mental health professional, not a professional podcaster, so anything you do for the show is super helpful. I'm very excited to have someone on today to talk about religious trauma and metal music and lots of things that I talk about in therapy, but he makes jokes about them. Today I am joined by a very special guest, Luke Severeid.
Hello.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
I start every podcast by asking people how it is that they got to do the thing they do. How'd you end up in stand-up comedy?
Let's go back to the source. So I was always funny. No. I hate it when people say that. They're like, when did you start comedy? You're like, the day I was born. I was like, you're a funny baby. That is psychotic. You're not even done cooking and you're already making jokes. Anyways, a little bit over 12 years ago, actually now. I was working a very unpleasant day job. And I would be harumphy about it.
Sure.
And I would yell at my coworkers, and they would laugh, and I'd be like, well, that was the best part of this terrible day. And I also just kind of enjoyed, house parties or whatever, being the loud, funny guy. And eventually I had enough friends go, like, you could just do that. Like, not at us, but at other people.
Sure. For money.
Yeah. They're like, for money. I was like, well, you don't actually know anything. But, yeah. And so I just did an open mic on a Monday. Actually went to the one a week before that Monday, and I intentionally procrastinated on, like, writing out a set list because I was too scared. I had to see what it was about. So I watched it and then very arrogantly was like, I'm funnier than so many of these people that are braver than me? No, thank you. So, yeah, and then the next Monday I went up, and then, just haven't really looked back since to make it sound like I'm more poetic than I should be.
Sure. Yeah. I think there's that trope out there that, like, everybody had trauma, and you just learn to process it by making jokes, and then you're the funny person.
Yeah, I definitely think that is a large fuel source. I do find it's an exhausting trope to the same extent because it also means like you're going to hold your trauma because it's your one fuel source. I'm like, can we not?
Yeah.
I also think it is very easy to find stories to tell about yourself that hold your identity as opposed to letting go of something and then trying to move on to another stage in your life because your body's doing it anyway. So why the fuck aren't you?
Yeah.
I stretch more than I used to because my tendons talk more than they used to, and I want to make them silent.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely like, it was anger.
Sure.
But I also think like it's the positive emotion. Like that reinforces the behavior. Anytime I'm trying to make a new habit, I'm like, how can I make dopamine a part of this?
Yeah.
I'm a dumb ape, dude. Like how do I Stockholm myself into being a better version of myself?
Right. Yeah. So talking about dopamine, you talk about in your set having ADHD. I have ADHD. I work with people with ADHD. Always curious, like, when did you get your diagnosis? What did that look like? Was it a thing you always knew, or was it like a shock later in life? What was your process there?
I had my process. It was just a couple years ago, like maybe 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So if you hear me say on stage recently, that is relatively recent in the grand scheme of existence. So don't be a nitpicking nerd. So about 3 years ago, and it was I was living in Washington State, pretty hard lockdown there for quite a while, and stand-up comedy was not my full-time gig, but like at least half of my work was stand-up comedy of currency and income, and that kind of disappeared, so kind of listless to an extent. Yeah. I was back to working and whatnot, but I was also like, I gotta work harder in a different way, and realizing how the process of learning how to do jobs differently was really difficult, and talked to some people in my life that didn't necessarily have it, but were like, yeah, just go get checked, go do a thing, jump through the hoops. Went and did that, and it's honestly, man, it was so stupid easy. It was so stupid easy, and I don't know if it's just because of how I was acting or if it's the system, because a part of me thinks like, yeah, why wouldn't they want to give like meth to the worker bees?
Sure.
Yeah, go be a better peasant.
Yeah.
You peasant. But I filled out a form. And it just was like, it was pretty much all fives.
Yeah.
1 through 5. And I was like, 5, 5, 5. Like, what? There was not, it was not all fives because I was like, that's I was like, I saw how many completed scores I got that I was like, I should have it not all be 5s.
Yeah.
Because I'm not like entirely broken. I'm sure some people do. What am I? I don't give a shit. I don't need to qualify this. But either way, it got it, and then just got on some time. They gave me too much at first.
Yeah.
Which sounds cool, but I was on my way. I was on my way to a show. I'd already had some caffeine, and then I'm stuck in traffic on the freeway, like mashing my tongue against like my lower bottom retainer.
Yeah.
And be like, this is cocaine. It's 3:30 p.m. It's 95 degrees outside. I have to go yell at strangers. Like, we don't need a maniac. It was intense.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people, like, because I think since the 90s for sure, like when ADHD kind of entered the cultural zeitgeist, like everyone's like, oh, everybody has it. But like a lot of people have symptoms of it. Not everybody needs to be on medication of it. And so that's a difference. The medical model we use for profit and sucks in a lot of ways. Like, it's not an exact science. So we've put doctors and lawyers and certain professions on this pedestal that say, like, they're experts, they know their shit. But, like, they don't know you personally, and they don't know your body chemistry personally. So it's very much trial and error when you're starting out on meds.
Yep.
And it's great in some instances and really terrible in other instances. So it's just always this, like, unique journey of finding your right medicine mix.
Yeah, I'm sure back when I was a child, when teachers were exhausted by me.
Yeah.
And, like, yeah, I do remember teachers were always mad at me. And I never knew exactly why. Because it was also just, like, it was kind of insane to be like, oh, like, I wasn't a terrible kid by any means. I was it was well-intentioned chaos, but it's like, I could not sit still for an extended period of time. And, yeah, but if I got medicated then, I'm sure it would have been, like, over the top and it would have been back and forth. Because, like, there's way more nuance now. But back then, dude, that would have probably been intense. But also, like, it might have been nice. Like, that's a thing that I've kind of wrapped my head around. I don't think it's an overly unique thing. But when you get medicated and you have, like, a day where you're, like, actually doing work consistently, you're like, dude, I would be so much further in my life, like, professionally and in so many other aspects if I'd been able to get a better, like, if I was able to, because I've self-medicated. Like, I used to drink quite a bit. Yeah. And I, consume THC fairly regularly. I've always kind of felt a little bit weird, because it is weird to self-medicate, but, like, the way I perceive, based off of my understanding of a lot of what it happens, and I might be completely wrong because I'm not a scientist, but it's like, I just feel like I've been in a dopamine deficit. Yeah. Like, it always, like, my life can be good, but I always feel maybe kind of bad. Like, it takes very little for me to be like, dah. Yeah. And so you want something to augment, to keep that bounce, that pep in your step. And when I am medicated, it just kind of goes like, oh, that's just not a worry. Like, my baseline is just, like, the foundation is there. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah. And, like, with ADHD, it's dysregulated dopamine. So you don't know what you're going to get. Some days you wake up and you're deficient, and some days you're good. So, like, you just can't plan on it. You can't account for it. That, like, book from the 90s, this bullshit, ADHD is a superpower. Is like, that's not how superpowers work. You don't know if they'll work or not, if they're going to show up when you need them to. That's not a superpower. So, yeah, that medication is trying to create, like you said, that baseline.
I like it when people talk about their ADHD and they're like, I have hyperfixation. I was like, sounds nice. Yeah. Like, I do find it funny, like, I separate non-ADHD people and then ADHD people. Like, in my set now, I'm even further separating. Yeah. I was like, united we stand, divided we fall. I shall tear us apart. No, but it is, like, I'm envious. I have buddies that are that way, that, like, they find a game they like or a specific thing. They're like, I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to be so smart about the thing. And I'm like, I can't pay attention for longer than 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's different. I mean, diagnostically speaking, to nerd out for a second, like,
I thought that's what this is.
Yeah, there's 20 diagnostic criteria. You need 6 of them. So someone who's better at math than me could figure out the exponential number that we land on for how many different diagnostic criteria can be met in a totally different pattern.
So any of those 6 can be combined or what?
Yep, and that's enough for a diagnosis. So you have people who are super spacey and not at all hyperactive, and then you have people who can't focus at all, and it's the same diagnosis, which again gets to our medical model being deficient in a lot of ways. But, like, it is wild. I was that kid who sort of fell through the cracks in school because I got good grades. I didn't sit still. But, like, I got A's, so nobody gave a shit. Like, oh, Jeremy, go sharpen all your pencils, go whatever to keep me busy, but I got A's, so everyone left me alone.
It made you sharpen pencils?
I mean, I sharpened all my pencils. I had clap out the chalk on the chalkboard. I put the flag up every day and took it down. I had, like, a lot of extra jobs at my good Lutheran school because I was so bored. I would work ahead like weeks in my homework and then just mess with people. So my teachers were like,
mess in what way?
oh, I mean, I think part of the reason I'm in therapy or as a therapist is and have been in therapy, is just I've always messed with people. Like humans are fascinating to me. So it would be distracting people. It would be upsetting my teachers, like pushing the line as far as I could without getting into
what is the spectrum of human behavior?
And like that's how I got dopamine, right? So like messing with people, seeing if I could get someone to laugh, seeing if I could get someone to like lose their focus. So yeah. My teachers learned early on the less I was in the classroom, the better, because I got good grades, but I needed to be doing things.
I definitely think it was getting laughs and positive attention, but I don't think I was able to calibrate properly.
Sure.
I don't think until like I was in my teens that I start like understanding how other people react, like what the reaction might mean. Because that early like elementary school. Yeah, I was like Christian elementary school, so like a lot of it is just lies. Like a lot of it is just like here's stories, here's this, and you're like, this swings wildly one way or the other. It's definitely like, hey, be obedient, but also like
So you grew up religious. What was like your family's vibe around mental health? Was that a thing?
We didn't talk about it, but also like it wasn't. No one was well versed enough in it as a concept to
Sure.
Raised by very, very kind, loving people, but very distracted with their own existence. Yeah. Dealing with their own.
But it wasn't like mental health is demon possession type Christianity.
No, it wasn't to that extent. Honestly, I wish my story was way. I wish my story was way more metal, because then I could. Yeah. Dude, I was raised by nice, soft, kind-hearted people. Yeah. Very nice, but also like. As an adult, sort of realizing, like, and, you see your parents, they're your parents, then they become kind of like these adult friends, and then you start to see them age, and you go like, oh, we're switching, all right, you're a different person. Yeah. Not entirely, but there's shifts, and there's changes, and death comes for us all. Yeah, that little slut. But it's, but it's interesting just seeing your parents be different, and then also seeing the similarities of yourself and them, and I realized, like, I got my my mom's depression and my dad's anxiety, like those just paired, and then me, and I, blah blah blah. Insert punchline here, my rage. But it's just kind of interesting to see. So yeah, that was mental health wasn't like a taboo subject, but they didn't have the bandwidth to. It was like to check and be like, "Are you good? We love you." Okay. Yeah. What do you need? I'll take you to the things that you do. Yeah. Yeah, they didn't understand what their second born was. Chaos. And
classic middle child.
Yeah, and it was fine, but it's just like, yeah, dude, I don't know how it helped me either, except being like, here's medication. That's not what you asked. I'm very tangential.
You're good. That's how my episodes get to be so long. Did you do private school, like Christian school, K through 12?
Through 5th grade, too expensive for my parents to pay for all three of us. And they just keep raising the prices, and it's for people who don't have to pay taxes, you sure do suck at making money. Yeah.
I mean, I was raised by both my parents are teachers, and so I think that's the only reason they afforded to send us to schools, because they got a discount because they both worked for the school. But yeah, I mean, mental health wasn't a thing. I wasn't of that demon possession is mental health, but I remember like a kid who's probably schizophrenic. And they just like took her out of school, just writing like shit about the devil in a journal, and everyone lost their minds about it. And I look back on it and I'm like, this kid was probably schizophrenic, and like they institutionalized her instead because the devil ? So
the devil is everywhere if you look for him.
Yeah. I mean, if you need to sell a savior, you need to have a bad guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Seems like that's not just a religion thing. That's a fascism thing too. That's a control thing. Yeah. So this is super off topic and only very niche for people. But the RNC is in Milwaukee this week as we're recording. And I was downtown today, and there's no one fucking there. Like, there's less people than on a normal Thursday than I've ever seen. Like, I planned extra travel time and all this shit, and I was like, I saw like
90 cops and 8 regular human beings.
Yeah, I mean, would you go down there if you could avoid it? It's also given the current climate
Yeah,
with
I
everything
think-
where you're like, all right, let's do some work from home.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's what everybody's doing. Like, stuff's open, but there's no one down there. It was very bizarre. Just segueing on fascism.
Something opinion that someone's going to be mad at. Something. Isn't it a fun time? I maybe this doesn't apply to you, but it probably does to some extent. But it's like, I can't share all of my opinions. Or if I do, they have to be really, really airtight and have a good punchline at the end. And to get to that point, I have to do a lot of not great versions of those opinions.
Yeah, I think, your profession, you're dealing with way more people at one time than I am. So I can have those conversations in just a smaller space of a one-on-one or me with a couple. And I can kind of land it a little easier than you saying a joke in front of, a crowd of folks and not knowing all those folks in the crowd.
Yeah. It is the job to, like, be able to get a feel of an audience and have enough material to go accordingly. I'm just kind of saying, like, interesting recent times.
Tenacious D's broken up right now because of it.
Yeah. A guy in a band made a joke, and then his agency dropped him.
Yeah.
Which is just capitalism. It's just businesses going like, this could hurt our money, so we're just gonna like not. But that's the thing. I was thinking about this. I was like, we're so upset, like cancel culture, quote unquote, or whatever. It's like people are screaming about that at each other, and all we're doing is arguing and not actually dealing with the real issues. This is all smoke and mirrors.
Yeah.
God, I am turning into a conspiracy theorist, and it's only been this month.
Yeah, but it is tough. It's tough, I think, to be able to joke about it. It's tough with like you have a big following on social media. And like, right, you're not in control of that. You don't own the algorithm. You don't get to even really own your own content at some point. So like, there is that. I hate the mental health spaces about unaliving, about like, oh, if you say sex, sex instead of segs or whatever, however they're editing it. I'm like, we're just making everyone dumb. And there's mountains of research that say for like a topic like suicide, you need to talk about it very openly and very bluntly. And it's like, nah, if you do that, we won't play your video anywhere.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's just for ad revenue, man.
Yeah.
Like, all of these decisions are not for the betterment of us. It's for the betterment of the profits for the shareholders.
Yeah.
It's just money, baby.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, because it's all every system that is supposed to tend to our needs only needs to be good enough to make enough. Yeah, I'm being real. I am a peasant. That is a thing I've really learned in the last couple of years. Like, I am such a peasant.
Yeah.
And so is most everybody.
Yeah.
And it does really frustrate me to just how much we are told to be mad at each other and as a distraction about like the actual things that a net negative effect on all of our lives.
Yeah.
And we can't even have a conversation about that because we have so many other points to be like, yeah, but you disagree about the other thing.
Yeah.
Rah. It's exhausting. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Can't wait for future. I think I said this last night and it's dark, but it's like, what a dumb time to not feel suicidal. Like, I want to be here. Ah.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, like, I think there's a good punchline in there, but also, like, I think it's important for people to say stuff like that. Like, I just posted the other day on, like, are we all burnt out, or, like, does this actually suck? And we should be kind of, like, exhausted over all the bullshit we have to deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah. Maybe that is also, like, the unifying thing, because I do talk a version of that on stage, or at least I could have kept this in my brain, is that is also a unifying thing. Like, everyone has to be tired of this, right? Like,
right.
We're all exhausted. Like, could we just have everything different real quick?
Yeah.
Like, we'll stay the same. Can all of them reset? Just all of them.
Can we get a different just system, please?
Yeah. Yeah. Just recast the entire leads. All of the leads in this show. Make them recast. Let's do a reboot.
Yeah. I love... just a hard left turn on the segue here. I
felt like all of that was a hard left turn.
Yeah. I love... you get a lot of metalheads at your shows.
Yes.
I'm distracting myself. I love the vests that metalheads wear. Like, I don't know where that started before I was around and listening to metal, but like, why are we sewing on patches? Like, why is that a metal thing? How did biker gangs and metalheads get sewing skills to do their vests and their patches?
Because they're not one-dimensional creatures. That's how.
I get that, but
people like art. And I do think it's a thing of pride. I think that's why people wear metal band t-shirts.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I like this, and I do think you are signaling in some way to someone else there. They might like go, good job, this I agree. And you're like, hell yeah, dude. I'm smart like you're smart. Confirmation bias. Thank you. But I think the patches, because I was on the West Coast my whole life, I think that's an East Coast thing. And I just think it didn't culturally hit over there that much, or more. It's more in the punk scene.
Sure.
But it's outfits, man. Like tribes, it's just a tribe. Tribes do
in-group,
what
out-group.
Yeah. And then also, I think you have all the bands. That just increases the likelihood that someone's going to be like, you're so smart.
I love that band. Yeah.
Oh, you have 47 different things? Guess what?
Yeah.
3 of them are great. Conversation starter.
I always get hung up on, like, how do all these people know how to sew? Did I just miss that somewhere?
I think safety pins were the initial. That was a starter.
The punk.
Yeah,
punk vibe.
Easier.
Sure.
And then people were like, yeah, but if I'm in the pit, safety pin ain't going to hold it. I lost X, I lost Y, I lost Z.
Yeah. All these tiny emo goth metalheads in high school need to sign up for home ec so they can learn how to sew their patches later in life.
Yeah, man. And it's probably so easy now with YouTube. Like, the saying home ec, like, you just need to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
And through 5 minutes of unskippable ads for 45 seconds of knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I also just think, like, you act like your tribe, and that tribe is this, and you're like, all right, well, these are seen as positive traits, so my general toxic masculinity ain't gonna buck up. I can sew a thing together because someone might suck my dick later about it. Like, all right.
Yeah. I love the, you can relate to this, I'm sure, the idea that, like, Christians and religious folks have the high moral ground. And they're like nice people, but you go to a metal show and like those are the nicest people in the world, and like Christians are kind of uptight assholes. And so like this weird cultural vibe of these religious people are moral and these metalheads are Satanists, and like that's not actually the vibe you get when you interact with those people at all.
No. Well, metalheads, I think most of them don't spend a lot of time ranking how they're doing with those around them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of religious people have that. Like, that's just baked in the cake. Like, how good of a person am I being? How good is everyone around me being? I need to remove temptation from around me so I have a better chance of getting to heaven. So we need to change everything around the environment. God, that is some needy behavior. That is, I mean, that is at the core of it. Like, you're talking about morality. I'm annoyed that they're just trying to. So many religious people are just like, yeah, everyone has to cosplay with us. We need to adapt the rules so that we're all following. This is the instruction manual for life. And I'm like, there's been a lot of those.
Yeah.
Also, I would love a new version because life keeps changing. Because guess what? We've been dumb for most of the time. Yeah. We're still so dumb. If you don't think we're dumb, watch any dialogue right now. We're not talking good, bad talk, not smart talk. Yeah. Let's move to better talk. So yeah, and that's also why I think a bunch of metalheads, this is me, broad strokes, but it's just like, yeah, man, I think metalheads by and large are also people that are aware of their own unease. What am I doing? Their own unease, so they're aware of it, whereas I think a lot of people live not introspective lives. Yeah. And I think a lot of the, I'm a good person, we're a good person, you're projecting because like you wish to attain this. Yeah. All have fallen short of the glory of God. Yeah. Well, and I think organized religion, the organized part is taking advantage of those in-group, out-group dynamics. Like we are prone to those things as humans. It's how our brains are wired. And organized religion wants to pull the strings on some of that. So these are good people, these are bad people, so that you stay with us, the quote-unquote good people. Yeah. Otherwise, they lose that 10%. Yeah. Untaxable. Right. Yeah. So when you talk a little bit about your show, walking away from religion, later teen years. Yeah, mid-late, somewhere in that range. I was like 14, 15. And really... Because you started listening to metal. It was definitely in the mix. It was a wedge. I mean, it wasn't entirely. I'd kind of been I've been drifting for a while. I definitely bought into it early on, but I never became like my life. It was just a part.
Yeah.
I was like, we go to church and we watch Star Trek. I feel equally passionate about both.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's my identity. This is how I think about this. Your first reaction shouldn't be to attack, Mr. Worf. Yeah. So, but it was like the social aspect, just kind of drifted away a little bit, and like getting chastised at youth group, where I was like, why the fuck am I here to be made feel bad in front of my friends? Like, I don't need this.
Yeah.
Because I was, still ADHD and got some testosterone in me, and
yeah.
Also, a lot of the stuff I've been consuming, it's like people are worried about metal, and you're like, yeah, man, they talk about Satan and other things, but it also just goes, oh, these are the options of the human experience, as opposed to this very small, finite example of what humanity can be. And you find something else and you go, oh, because like honestly, I mean, like the yelling, the music, like scratched an itch. It was like I never got that in church.
Yeah, here's actual dopamine for you.
Yeah. Here's like, oh, this is how music can sound, and my brain being like, I like music.
Right. And that's not the Holy Spirit moving you. It's just literally feel-good drugs in your brain.
Maybe that's what it is. People that really feel the Holy Spirit just have terrible taste in music.
I think a lot of hymnology could be really good metal with a little bit of different instrumentation.
Oh, dude, some Gregorian chant?
Yeah.
Gets my dick wet.
Not all the blood of beasts? Like, come on, that's a metal song. That's not a hymn.
No, not at all. Well, I mean, it is.
It is a hymn.
It is a hymn. That's also the thing where, like, Christians are like, but we're good. You're like...
Yeah, blood sacrifice, magic.
Yeah, you've done a lot of things. You've tamed. That's why, like, a lot of people, like, say Islam is, like, so violent, and I'm not disagreeing necessarily. Don't try to murder me. But I'm not drawing any cartoons. Back off it. But I do think, on the grand scheme of things, like, they're just a slightly... Even if, like, they have not grown up as much as Christianity has grown up. Like, it's bucking up again, I think. But, like, the Crusades were a while ago. Like, Islam has not had their, like... They haven't, like... They're soft expanding. They haven't done they haven't tempered as much. They haven't had a Catholic church to calm them down and keep the molestations to a minimum. You know?
Yeah. I think a lot of that ritual where it started is sterilized now. We're not actually slaughtering animals. We're not using real blood. It's all, when I would take communion, like one of the big things, early deconstruction for me, that was like, I was raised fundamentalist, so the Bible is the literal word of God, and it was like
that's hard to follow.
I don't believe that when I take communion, like I'm eating somebody's flesh, and like that was a miracle that happened. And I was like, if I choke on this cracker and die, and you autopsy me, there's nobody else's blood in my system. Like this is grape juice. Like I just couldn't like get to that like like you believe this literally, because like I just couldn't wrap my head around like I don't believe that.
I wish I'd been in that one. It was so tame. It was very easy to just go along with it. But like that's some like, dude, I'm 5 and this is stupid.
Yeah. Well, and like, right. I talk about hell trauma as like the reason I stayed in the church for so long. Like that's a pretty legit threat to be like, you're going to burn forever. That's hard to get out of your head if it's taught to you at 4. But it's one of those things where like, yeah, it could be way cooler than it was, but it's really sterilized everything. But also I think people wouldn't go if it was bloody and smelly and there was real blood.
It was the original algorithm. How do we trick these people to keep coming? It's a sales pitch.
Yeah. People go to see Guar, but they spray fake blood everywhere, and that's not everybody's cup of tea.
Well, that's also like, that's what it's not, because it's blood. It's not tea. Fake blood. Yeah, man, that's also kind of how a lot of people perceive metal shows, and I did for a while there as well, where you're like, oh, this is communion. This is community. Yeah. And I don't disagree, but like it elevated my spirit there way more than I ever did at church. Just because you're just sitting there being like, hey, you should feel bad. Hey, you should try harder. And I do think like we need to teach how to navigate your emotions and how to deal with the ups and downs of a finite, like being a sentient creature, knowing you have a finite existence is a unifying and terrifying thing. That all of us have that. And church it tells you a story that lets you sleep at night.
Right. But not deal with it.
Yeah, you don't necessarily deal with it, but also like how do you deal with that? That's its own thing, but that's like this open book, And all these other books are like, no, closed book. We got it. All the answers right here. Come here. Hey, talk to me. Give me money. I'll see you every Sunday. I'll shake your hand. You'll thank me.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I saved your soul.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't... And then we're just trying to make everyone think like us. Because if we're all singing, the song gets better. Not really.
Well, and it's we call it spiritual bypassing. Like, you're not doing the actual work of processing your mortality. You're not doing the actual work of grieving if you lose someone. It's just you'll see them in heaven. God has a plan. Like, that's sticking a Band-Aid on it and ignoring all the actual work. You get to feel better for a brief amount of time, but you don't actually feel better long term.
What was that term?
Spiritual bypassing.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I like that. Spiritual bypassing. Yeah, because that is...
Let go and let God. God works in mysterious ways, like those Band-Aids you slap on existential crises without doing any work.
Yes, they can definitely go that route. But also, releasing control is beneficial.
Yeah.
Because you stop getting in your own way.
Yeah.
A lot of these things that are a positive byproduct of being religious or spiritual or something, like believing in a higher power, like I'd like to find like the secular, like I just like, can we ground this? Because it clearly works in some capacity.
Yeah.
But like, can I ground it in like things that I believe to be real?
Yeah.
Because they are useful. They are beneficial traits, and I would like to improve my life as much as I can while I have the time to do so.
Yeah. And I talk about, community. You talked about communion and community earlier. Like, that's the hardest thing people have with leaving the church is like, church is one of the few social things we have left in our modern society that's like instant community. You can go to a sporting event, but like there's 30,000 people there. You're not friends with them. You're not introducing yourself. You're cheering, hooray. But like you go to church, people scoop you up right away. Like, come join us. Like, come do our thing on Thursday night. Come do our thing on Sunday morning. Come do our thing. Like, so that community is instant, and it's hard to find that elsewhere in society right now.
Yeah, we lack, man, I sound like an old person on TV, but like we do lack a sense of community. Mm-hmm. Like we're all looking at our own little rectangles, stealing all of our time and attention, like, and it's human interactions for the most part. Some people are like, I'm an introvert. Look at all these memes I'm going to share all the time about it.
Yeah.
Who don't need that as much, but by and large, most people need, and I also think that's why it's so easy for us to be so angry at each other. It's because we have no overlap.
Yeah.
Like in our lives to humanize each other. It's really difficult to do. And I know I'm definitely guilty of it, but it's like, it's hard to see people as people if you don't. I said this once, and maybe it'll be something at some point in time in the future, but it's just like, I try to use empathy all the time, because if I can see myself in someone else, like, I'm a narcissist. It's so much easier to be like, you're worth having around because you remind me of me.
Right. Yeah.
And that's like a weird flipped way to do it, but I'm like, if people perceive things in that way, like, try to find this. There's something here. Yeah,
that's how I approach therapy. Like, I want to find something I like about my clients early in the process, because it makes it so much easier for me to work with them.
Yeah, that's great. Makes sense. Where's the dopamine? How do I reinforce this behavior?
Yeah, for sure. And then I've done therapy for 15 years. I've had one client who I really, 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 really struggled to like. I don't like people. I'm an introvert in general. It's weird to say you don't like people as a therapist, but like, I don't
need people.
I don't require people tire me out. They do not build me up. And so it's one of those things where like, I need to like the people I work with. Otherwise it's gonna be hard for me to go to bat for them.
Yeah, makes sense, man. Especially if you just hate people as much as you do.
Yeah. Just despise them in general. In mass, I despise them. Metalheads, there's good research that show metalheads are happier human beings. And the thought process behind the research is they have a healthier outlet to process heavy shit, not just the music, but like existential concepts, and they deal with it, and they can have community around it and laugh with people and feel connected in that way, and that's really healthy for your brain.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, you got to get the devil out somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy using that as a concept, even as a non-believer, but it's still like I think there's some amount of like unease in you, and if you don't give it an outlet, it's going to come out in other ways.
Yeah. I think simply stress, but also like if you want to do the drippy hippie shadow work of Carl Jung and crystal work, I mean, that stuff's unscientific, but also super trendy right now. Like everybody's got their shadow side.
Yeah, I mean, personify it how you want.
Right. We're narrative creatures. We want to put a story to it.
Yeah, of course. I don't believe your story. I'm tired of stories. I like pretend stories that I know are pretend. Okay.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, it's just do the thing. And that's also why I would just want to find the grounded versions of all these things, because it's very useful tools. The more I try to live following these religious things without being religious, usually the better my life kind of gets passively.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and structure is super helpful. We see a lot of high-level mental health issues within cults because if your brain isn't working properly, having somebody tell you what to do all the time is actually helpful. And so that structure is really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, being basically self-employed, I'm like, this is awesome. Oh, no. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
All right. So
Right.
I've had to create my own structure, and
Yeah.
it is definitely, especially as such a scatterbrained person, it's just like, all right, I go a fail, forward, fuckface.
Yeah.
It's because I like me some alliteration and being rude to myself. But that is what it is.
Yeah.
And so yeah, the appeal of structure is great. I've missed having a day job on occasion just for that specifically.
Sure.
I have coworkers that I can kind of, my battery gets filled by interacting with people. I fill my battery, and then I don't have to worry about what I do in these 8 hours because I'm acquiring currency.
Yeah.
Instead of just going maybe this video will make me money.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. Otherwise, that was 4 hours of my life that got 1,000 views.
Yeah. Well, and structure is helpful for people in general, but definitely if your brain's dysregulated, providing structure for it so your brain doesn't have to do it when it doesn't want to do it is super helpful. What's that like? I mean, having a job that not only lacks some of that structure, but I would say is probably one of the more inconsistent jobs you can have. You're traveling around the country. Your shows are at different times in different places. There's not really consistency that way or structure that way.
Yeah, definitely not a Monday through Friday type of thing.
Yeah.
But there is consistency. It's just traveling consistency.
Yeah.
It's just I do these routines in these places I may or may not have been to before. But it is kind of the same routines of just,
Was that work for you to get into here's when I work out, here's when I have time in nature, here's when I do my meals, with traveling, and some days you have shows, some days you don't. What is that like for you to kind of navigate?
Not ideal.
I mean, you made such a face when I asked that question.
I was like, oh yeah, I have entire jokes about the pendulum swings.
Yeah.
Healthy routines, less healthy routines. They've been getting better slowly, but it's also very hard to just live. I love being on the road because I'm like, all right, the anxiety shuts up because I'm doing the thing.
Yeah.
And I can also, my favorite part about being on the road is that I can just go oh, performance is the priority. Everything in the day needs to be me prepping myself best for when I get to hop on stage and be a maniac.
Sure. Yeah.
That is the priority, as opposed to other days where I'm like, we need to email, we need to edit, we need to do X, we need to do Y, we need to do redundancy.
Yeah.
So, that's nice. But then, there's other days where you're like, oh, I need to do this. It's very much, I'm definitely at a stage in my career where it's I'm having more opportunities, but it's also I need to have better routines. I need to be a big boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're still a peasant, ultimately.
Yeah, man. I would love to have some equity before burying a parent. Which is nice. I'll check my own privilege preemptively. Okay, I'm well aware. Oh, you got two parents. They have equity. Yeah. It's because America is racist and there's some generational wealth. Not a lot, but a little.
Yeah.
All right, that didn't need to be there.
I agreed wholeheartedly. Yes.
I like it. This is a joke that never worked how I wanted it to, but I do like to just check my own privilege as a white guy.
Yeah.
Just because that's the right thing to do. And also that way I never don't have a white guy telling me what to do.
Yeah, you talk a lot about, stereotypes and tropes as a bald white guy who likes metal.
Yeah, it's definitely a thing I've done for a while in some variation, and I would like to move past it, but I still, and maybe this is my own low self-esteem or my own whatever, but I really feel like I need to win over audiences. Mm-hmm. And I do, given how I look and how I want to sound.
Yeah.
If you're not on board with me, it's going to take a minute. So it's the jokes. I'm disarming you. I'm calibrating you to me. And I would love to be able to get to a point where I can just jump into the chaos
Sure.
about it.
Yeah.
And maybe I just need to actually just try doing that more often. But yeah, I do talk about how I look and come across quite a bit, because I also think it's an archetype of a person in society at this moment in time that I can usually kind of play on a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do find them to be the inverse of me to some extent, where I'm like, God, you're angry at everyone around you. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Ramble.
Yeah. But I think, subverting that trope, disarming people, like, yeah, it's wild. I love looking back at my life. I'm 36. I sound like I'm 70. But like, again, just this idea of like, I was pretty hardcore Christian growing up. And like, I remember getting in an argument with a youth pastor because I was listening to System of a Down, and they were like very concerned for my soul. And I was like, this song's called Devil, but it's satire, so it's all right. And like, just arguing about it.
Yeah. It's just like, oh, you don't understand nuance.
Right.
The fact that you think this is going to break the spell.
I'm going to be demon possessed.
Even you know how weak this spell is. That's the thing. That like, whoa. Any amount of new information is going to ruin this house of cards. And you're like, all right, man, that's pretty fucking feeble. I bet you probably hope that I have like a loved one die soon, so I come back here. I need your comfort.
So I'm in distress. Yeah. Now like going to metal shows, and I saw Heilung recently. That's easily the most spiritual event I've ever experienced in my life.
Oh, yeah?
It's a Nordic folk metal band.
I need to go to more shows. It's so funny that like the last couple of years I didn't go to shows much at all, and especially with comedy being all busy before, I would rarely go to metal shows, and then I just start talking about it, and everyone's like, "That's what you talk about," and I was like, "Oh, I'm a poser. I gotta go try harder." You
got the good vocals for it to talk about metal in depth.
I've been practicing. I've been yelling and ruining my vocal cords for a while.
This is behind the curtain, did you have to talk to a vocal coach or anything? Like, have you actually practiced that, or just YouTubing and trying not to
barely
damage your vocal cords permanently?
Too late, but I need to do warm-ups, and really it's bad, especially like last night where I was like kind of helping produce the show.
Yeah.
There's no green room. I couldn't really, unless I wanted to go outside. Yeah. But I was running the door as well. It's fun I wear so many hats.
Yeah. I was genuinely surprised that you were just right there when I came in. I was like, oh.
A lot of people,
you're the guy doing the show.
And I was like, yeah, man, well, it's not a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Which is also what comedy sometimes is. Like,
right.
I'm, at this stage of my career, I'm my own tour manager. I'm my video guy. I'm the writer. I'm the performer. And sometimes I'm the door guy. I'm my own ad guy. That's for sure.
Right. Video editor. All that stuff.
I'm the only one who wants my career to succeed at this point, outside of people who want to pay for a ticket on occasion, which I thoroughly appreciate. I don't expect anything else from anybody else. I'm just going like, it was me. But that's not the question you asked. It was warm-ups. Yeah, I didn't have a chance to do warm-ups, which was fine. Yeah. I did get pretty yelly last night, but afterwards, I'm like, we're fine. But today I'm like, you could have probably done it nicer.
Sure.
But it's all the healthy routines. I also, if I eat like a certain way, I will be happier. Maybe not in my tom-tom, but like the machine runs better. So it's all this trial and error. But I have had a couple vocal lessons, and honestly, I would like to find someone that I can use a bit, just because it would be easier. Because also, dude, vocal, like, that shit is not metal as fuck, dude. Like, warm-ups, you're like, it's not, you don't look cool.
Yeah. You talk about in your set, metal lyrics not sung in a metal way are very kind of cringy.
Yeah, not all of them. There's some really good. There's some really good lyrics, but sometimes you just read them and you're just like, this is a very one-dimensional emotion that is being. Yeah, expressed.
Even I laugh sometimes at the videos that will like isolate the vocalist and take out the drums and take out the guitar and all the heavy sounding stuff, and you're just like, well, this is not what I like about it. It's like all that wall of sound that hits me.
Yeah, it's like you listen to a riff you really like, but then instead of hearing the notes, someone just told you what the note was. Yeah. Like E, F, F, G, G. And you're like, okay, all right. Yeah. I get that this is, but maybe not in this form.
Yeah. I think for me, a lot of my ADHD and music, like the lyrics are the last thing I do. Like there are bands that I've listened to for years where I'm like, I look up the lyrics. I'm like, oh, did not know that's what they said. 'Cause like, that's not what it does for my brain.
Yeah, I'm the opposite of that. I mean, like, definitely I played music and whatnot, but the vocals were what I gravitated to first. Because I was reading scripture. I was doing that. And they didn't scratch an itch, but I'm like, well, this goes to the sounds that I enjoy.
Yeah.
Let's memorize.
Yeah.
Also, that's not... Some of that's not a good sermon to start singing to, where you're just like, oh, rage and hate.
Yeah.
But I never took it in a totally that direction way, but I definitely... Like, there is some validity to being like, what you eat is what you are. And if you're listening to something that just screams not happy things the whole time, it becomes a thing you latch onto and a part of your identity.
Yeah. I think you can listen to music that validates the mood you're in, or you can listen to music to put you in a mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I listen to a ton of foreign metal because I don't know what they're saying, and I don't need to. Like, I like the sound. And then you look up a lot of the foreign, like, especially this, like, Viking metal genre. It's, like, about drinking or hunting, and that's cool. I don't need it in English.
Yeah, I mean, I prefer vocalist albums when I'm writing. Mm-hmm. Like, just, like, some bands, they just go, well, here's the version without the front man. And I'm like, hell yeah, thumbs up, please and thank you. Yeah. Because it's just easier, because my brain latches onto it.
Sure.
Yeah, that being said, like, all of my critiques come from a place of envy to some extent as well, because I'm like, that's the first job I ever was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. Well, you were in a band early on, bass player.
Yeah, I was never. I think I tried vocals a little bit, but it is, even if I can yell, it's a totally different thing to do it for an extended period of time. Yeah, it's very easy to do it wrong. Sure. Yeah, I had buds who were like, what you need to do to work on screaming better is you need to take a huge drag off a cigarette and scream it out. That'll build calluses in your throat. This is
how dumb our mammal species has been for years. Even with the internet, that's still how dumb we are.
It was early internet, but it was researchable. I could have asked a Jeeves about this, and I did not. Yeah.
Yeah. So silly. How do you kind of navigate some of the online fame? How do you navigate having a bad show? Like, what do you do to take care of yourself while you're doing this job that comes with some ups and downs?
Mostly binging. I don't know, man. It's new. Everyone's been pretty chill. Yeah. And there's negative comments on occasion, but that doesn't bug me too much, really. I mean, I piped in on someone else's page about recent things, and that kind of led to a bunch of trumpeters harumphing just in the comments. But it's also like, I think it's good to check in. Yeah. It's good to be aware of, like, if I voice my opinion, how is that going to be presented? Because also I need to calibrate to be able to present my opinion in the most airtight way possible. Sure. And I need to know. I see it's all instruments. Like, is the guitar or the bass, is it in tune? Mm-hmm. And just because I don't want to use a certain string doesn't mean it shouldn't also be, like, I should know what it's tuned into. Yeah, for sure. To play around it, I just called you guys a bunch of B strings. You're so thick. Anyways, what was the first question? I just derailed myself.
No, you're good.
How do I navigate it? Yeah, man. It's all been pretty positive. Yeah. It is weird. The further you get in comedy, the more lonely it is. So it's interesting just being on the road. Sure. But also it's like I'm doing my thing, and most shows have been good. Yeah. On occasion, I have not a great show, but like most of my work is DIY. Yeah. So if I'm in a venue outside of like working some clubs. Usually the clubs, since I'm not doing full headline weekends, like I'm a feature act and then an off night headliner. Yeah. So like they're not my audience. If they're a bad crowd, I only get them for a little bit. I only have to worry about them for 20 to 30 minutes, and then someone else deals with them in the back end when they're more drunk. Yeah. So my shows have been good. For me, it is. I keep raising, like, a bad set for me is me just going like, that wasn't what I wanted. Sure. And I've been very lucky that I have not had to take those shit gigs. Yeah. Because that is what it is. Like, that's how you have bad shows, is where you just show up to a place where comedy is what was sold, not you doing comedy. Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of been nice lately. Like, my calendar is getting more and more full. So it'd be nice to have more gigs, but it's, I don't know, man. It's been cool. It's really awesome having people come out and see you on person, because the audience is the instrument, and if the instrument is like, oh, I'm stoked to be here, you're like, okay. Yeah. Let's have fun. Right. Yeah. So it's been nice. Cool. I feel like that answered most of it.
And you stretch more than you used to.
Yeah, I mean, I need to stretch more. I was late to getting to this because I was like, why am I not doing yoga in a park right now?
Sure. Yeah.
I can. And then if I stretch a little bit, I'll be a little bit looser for the talkity talks because I got my wiggles out my waggle.
Absolutely. I'm behind. I support being late because you took care of physical mental health.
Yeah, I mean, too often, this is a trait I have, and I think a lot of other people have it too, is like too often we're like rush, and you're like, okay, yeah, stick to it, but also like make an amount of time to just be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the productivity mindset of like late stage capitalism of like we don't have breaks. We should be doing our next thing or our side hustle or our whatever it is, instead of being like, yo, if I hydrate properly and go stretch for 30 minutes, I'll actually be a more effective human being.
Yeah. I do that with the gym. I'm like, all right, rest day. But with everything else, I'm like, I never take rest days. It's all like perpetual motion.
Yeah.
I'm definitely much more aware of the finite nature of my existence than I was 5 years ago.
Yes.
And the finite nature of momentum I have in my career.
Yeah.
If I'm not beating the drum or fucking clanging the hammer on the molten metal, the sword ain't gonna get made.
Sure.
The analogy is not gonna get finished.
Yeah.
God, I'm such a fucking poet, dude.
A very metal metaphor you pulled out there.
Trying to, man. I love metaphors. Yeah, sure. Let's leave it. I love
Sword,
Freudian slips.
Swords and dragons and all that shit.
Yeah, well, it scratches my itch, and I know it's going to resonate with someone. Who'll be like, yeah, and I was like, yeah, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. Let's get controversial for a second. What are metal bands that just did not ever land with you?
Ooh, basically, a lot of the old band, like that vocal styling, like hair metal never really did. Just anything where it's like, I was like, okay, all right. I do love me a falsetto on occasion, but like fully, the whole time that didn't scratch my itch. I'm trying to think. I mean, I kind of got into metal initially with like new metal wave, which is like the most hated of all the waves.
So you're like a hardcore Limp Bizkit fan, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I did do all of it.
Yeah, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so like that time in life where like Limp Bizkit was popular and they used it for every pro wrestling video ever, like, man, I can remember My Way or the Highway to Stone Cold and The Rock, like WrestleMania 17. Like, I'm here for that, even though it's embarrassing to admit.
I'm 2 years older than you, so I think I was able to skip that.
Mm-hmm.
They were there for a minute. Like, Significant Other was like, 8th grade, 9th grade for me, somewhere in that range. And like, it was good. I mean, like, for what it was, like, Fred Durst definitely has a very specific style. But like, the swing of the guitar, of the instruments was quite good, where you're like, all right, I do wish more time and energy was put into like rap and metal, like joining forces,
like Cypress Hill type,
something like that.
Yeah.
Because it felt very forced at the time.
Yeah.
In the same way that like dubstep like saturated the market, and everyone's like, I never want to hear this again.
Yeah.
I'm like, it should have been spaced out a little bit.
Sure.
Because I do think like rap pairs well with metal.
Yeah.
I just know I enjoy it more when there's like some chunky riffs and maybe like the beats have more bite to them.
Yeah. No one's figured it out. Lil Wayne did like a really terrible rock album trying to do heavy sounds and rap, and it was really bad. Maybe
he just needs to be a different artist to accomplish that feat. I don't know.
Yeah, somebody should figure it out.
It's very easy to be like, hey, can someone who has just all the skills I don't have, could you just I have
figure
an imagination and I figured it out. How about you?
Yeah, I love music. It does a lot for my mental health, but like I have no musical talent. I can't read music. I can't keep a beat. I'm tone deaf. Like everything about it is foreign to me as far as like making it sound nice.
Yeah, but you still have opinions on it, which is
for sure.
Silly.
Yeah.
Which is, I love when people are like, that's not how comedy works. I'm like, what the fuck do you know about this?
Yeah, the in-group, out-group dynamics, even like within metal of like, there's certain, I always talk about Tool fans, and like I like Tool, but like I find the fandom to be really hard to integrate with. People keep asking me what my favorite band is, and I'm like, I'm never going to have a favorite band again. Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of any tribe.
Yeah.
It's a super specific tribe. Because also, they're just dudes and dames doing things.
Right.
And like locking in, be like, that's mine. I'm like, dude, that's too much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad I never got a band tattoo.
Yeah.
Because that would have had to, the meaning behind it would have to change.
Right. And you're just running such a risk that person will be an okay human for the entirety of their career.
Yeah. Also, like the ego that you could maybe cultivate in a position where everyone treats you like you're a god.
Yeah.
You're going to turn into a devil.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah. I think with celebrity and wealth comes a detachment from regular humans.
And I also think Tool fans want to be nerds. And the more people tell them they suck, the more they're going to be loud.
Yeah, just the stuff about music and timing and 7/8 tempos and sure.
Yeah, it's very impressive, but it doesn't like the recent Tool stuff. I'm like, oh, I don't like this as much, and they're like, and I'm like, I'm not a drummer. I don't care about numbers this much. Numbers and counting.
Yeah,
my spectrum is not the same spectrum as yours, bro. Like thoughts and prayers, but shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I love talking about ADHD and how I listen to it because like I listen to so much weird shit and like. It's all I'll listen to for 3 weeks, and then my brain's done with it. And, like, that's just... It's like, I don't know that my opinion is worth anything to any other human. It's just what my brain does.
Yeah, it's good that you're aware of that.
Yeah, sometimes it's heavy metal. Sometimes it's weird electronica. Like, whatever. Whatever gives me the dopamine is what my brain's going to do.
Well, now we need to hurry up and make everyone agree with the way you think.
Sure. We would get a lot less done because ADHD is not always super easy to have.
Well, luckily, you're in charge of you.
That is why I own my own business now. That is for sure. So what have you been listening to lately? What's the current jam?
I've really been enjoying Orbit Culture.
Sure.
I'm going to try to see him in Pennsylvania.
Somebody at the show was like, do you tour so that you can see the bands you like? And it was such a like light bulb moment. You could see it in real time where you're like, I don't, but I should.
Yeah, no, it was very, what did I say? Because I went back through the video from last night. I was like, I'm not smart enough to do that.
Yeah, what a good idea. Good job, Wisconsin crowd.
It's a good idea, but then I also realized like that might not be a good idea for me because when am I gonna do my show?
Yeah,
because I'm gonna advertise to the people who are gonna be at the show I'm gonna be at.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
I would love at some point to be able to tour with a band that I enjoy and just like. I want to open.
Right.
Because then I can't, it's so hard to follow music.
Yeah.
Like I've done it before and you're like, this isn't ideal.
Yeah.
But it'd be really fun to just find, have a band that I vibe with and like open for them.
Yeah.
And then, here's 30 minutes, 40 minutes of some guy yelling about what we're about to watch.
Yeah.
Buy my t-shirts, please and thank you.
Yeah. You need like a festival, music fest or something set up where it's the different varieties there.
Well, actually, in August 10th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I'm going to be hosting like a little metal fest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Your new hometown. You're not original hometown, but
no, yeah, I moved there a couple months ago. I've been there, living in Pennsylvania,
Pittsburgh.
That's the end of that thought. No, I like it. It's good hills.
Yeah.
Nice folk. I'm digging it, and I'm also really enjoying how much closer I am to so much more of the country.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I drove out here. I've been on like about a week run of shows now, and it's going to be heading up to a different part of Wisconsin soon. So it's really cool to be able to be in a drivable part of the country. Because being in Washington State, beautiful state, love it, great hills, good trees. I like nature. That's the one awesome thing about COVID is that made me go like, I better go outside. Oh, we have such nice trees. Yeah. You guys don't have any mountains out here.
We don't have any
mountains. So sad.
Yeah.
I got it Mount Rainier back
flat.
home. And it's going to blow up one day. And I want to, if that thing starts burping, I am getting a flight immediately home because I'm going to watch that thing lose its mind. What was I saying? Oh, yes. Pennsylvania. It's good to be close, but Washington, very far away. Like, I could drive around, but like, it's cool to be like, oh, I want to do a show. That's a 6-hour drive to like another major city.
Right. Yeah. Or you have to like cross a mountain range and then you're just in Montana.
Yes.
No big cities there. I don't know, actually, geography. I think the population of Montana is like 800,000, so I assume no big cities.
There's some big enough cities. I've had some really fun shows out in Montana, and
you
also
you have to cater to a much wider audience than I do.
But also, you say that prejudice. No,
yes.
I get it. You say that, but there's whoever you're thinking of as your team is there too.
Yeah.
Just in not those quantities.
Right.
They're there, and like. They're in the cities, usually.
Right.
If that's, I'm assuming your team, and because it's so funny to just softly talk about subjects. But it is like everyone is everywhere.
Right.
Just maybe not in the numbers that you think or would?
Yeah, I was just purely thinking from a going to shows or getting people to come to an event.
Yeah.
Number of human beings who live close to each other.
Yeah, might have to cast a larger net,
Yeah.
but you can catch something for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I drove through Washington once on a road trip.
Nice.
There's nothing there for most of the state, and then you cross the mountains, and there's all the things.
Well, it's because the tectonic plates mushed,
Right.
and then turns out it's fun to have things in divots.
Yeah.
Like, you just have flat, it's boring, but you have a
Well,
bunch of nooks and crannies.
Wisconsin, we got nothing, and then, like, Seattle was like, here's mountains, here's a rainforest, you just drove through a desert. It's like, oh, there's all the things that you could have.
Really, definitely took it for granted.
Yeah.
Because you are where you are. You don't think much of it. And it is kind of a dreary area.
Yeah.
Like, it's a lot of gray, and that just...
So you moved to Pittsburgh, Steel City.
Dude, lateral move when it comes to...
Grayness.
Definitely hotter. And I do like... You guys have hot rain.
Yeah.
We do not have hot rain. It's always cold rain.
Because you're close to the ocean.
Yeah. So having, like, hot rain, I was like, this is odd.
Yeah.
But that's been cool. But outside of that, it's been a pretty lateral move when it comes to, like, just slightly more drastic versions of the weather.
Yeah.
And I do like the hills out there.
So what's the comedy metal festival you're hosting?
It's a little metal fest. It's at Mr. Small's, August 10th.
Nice.
I believe it's 4 p.m. to 10 or 11 p.m. Like a bunch of bands. Zao is closing it out.
Very cool.
So that's funny to have a Christian metal band closing out a festival that I'm on. But also that's good because a woman after the show last night came up. She's like, I loved it. I'm Christian, blah, blah, blah. I was like, cool. Yeah. I'm vehemently not, but I also want to tell the jokes in a way where I convey my opinion, but I don't want to, I really want to do my best to not completely alienate people. Like if someone's going to get alienated, I want it to be like, that says more about you than me, dude. Like, you did that. I'm stating my opinion. It's just really hard to not want to fucking throw punches.
Yeah. Yeah.
Figuratively, not literally.
Similarly, like I work with religious trauma, but I see people who are still Christian and still identify. Like I'm an atheist. I'm not trying to encourage you to be. Just I'm here to be helpful. Whatever that looks like. I don't want you to be
abandon your faith.
Yeah.
Join me.
I don't want you to be a Christian nationalist, but like you can.
Yes,
you can
that's
be
the main thing. Is
you
that
can
I'm
be
like
a Christian if you want, just not that.
Yeah, be a Christian, but stop trying to make me.
Yeah.
Stop trying to make society have your rules because that's not tight.
No. Yeah, that's not how civilization has ever worked.
It's how it stops working.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. That was so much more of a bummer of an ending than I was trying to land on.
Kind of like life.
So, Metal Fest that you're hosting, where else can people find you? Plug the pluggables, I guess.
All over the place. If you want to go to lukesevereid.com, all my ticket links will be there. Or, my link tree on any of my socials, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. I got Pittsburgh coming up. I have Detroit on July 28th.
Nice.
Actually, let me just look at my calendar because it's right here, and that's what
coming up.
Smart things would be. I am actually the beginning of August. I'm going to be in Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia. Then I'm, like I said, got some gigs in Pittsburgh coming up, and then I'm going to be in D.C. at the end of August, Washington, D.C., and then also Moscow, Idaho, and Boise, Idaho, and then also Portland, Oregon, and Cleveland, Ohio, and oh my god, and then New York. Just
crisscrossing the country.
Yeah, man, I'm trying to just go. I want to go to all the places. Also, anytime I post a thing where I'm like, "Here's my dates," everyone's like, "What about here? What about here? What about here?" I'm like, if I can get 50 of you in a room,
for sure.
Like, if I can, maybe that's not worth a flight for one day, but if I can do that a couple days in a row, like that's worth my while. Yeah. And just means that I can come back and do a bigger room next time around. So, sure. Going all the places as long as I have the longevity to do it.
Yeah. And as somebody who saw your show last night, totally worth it.
Thanks, man.
Nice little meet and greet while you signed everyone in with the tickets, and then you get the show still. So it was awesome.
Several people were very surprised by that, and I was like, yeah, I know. Like, it's good. You're like, you think I'm more famous than I am.
We'll have all those links in the show notes, so it's super easy for people to find. Luke, thanks for coming on and taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Really fun.
Yeah, and to all our wonderful listeners, thanks for tuning in again. We'll be back next week with another new episode. Take care, everyone.